Muhammad laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Greetings. Welcome to I Have a Testimony. I'm your host, Brother Willie Muhammad. Today, brothers and sisters, I am honored to have this brother as a guest on our show. He's a hard worker. If you see him on any of his social media pages, you see that he has a way with people. He has many friends in all walks of life. He's an example of how the teachings of the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan can transform lives of those who the world had once forsaken.
So I feel blessed to be here. I feel blessed to see my Moorish brothers, my Christian brothers, my Muslim brothers, all my brothers and sisters from the hood, everybody up in here to be a part of a very valuable discussion. I must also say that I feel blessed to be in the presence of the man who started the process of reparations for me. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. With the teachings of the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, came in a prison cell and he began the repair process on your brother that stands before you today. He's a man who's been in the repair business for over 60 years, repairing black people, repairing the black man and black woman.
So we want to welcome our brother student minister Troy Muhammad of Muhammad Mosque #1 in the city of Detroit. Assalamu alaikum, my brother, and Ramadan Mubarak.
Wa alaikum salam and Ramadan Kareem, dear brother. Thank you for having me. Thank you for this great show. And thank you for your hard work in the area that you've been assigned to by our leader, teacher, and guide, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
All praises due to Allah. So we're going to get straight into it. So, Brother Troy, how is it? I would like to begin by asking you, how does it feel to be the student minister of the very first mosque established in the Nation of Islam in a city where the Savior first made himself known and his mission known?
Well, dear brother, you know that it never came to mind until later on. You know, as you know, as I mentioned in that clip you just showed, I came to the Nation of Islam while in a prison cell. I was exposed to the teachings while in a prison cell. So when I was blessed to be freed from that prison cell, you don't go to the mosque with the idea to lead the mosque, because at the time we had a great minister and Minister Dawood Muhammad, and then we had another great minister who returned to the city of Detroit, Minister Rasul Muhammad. Great captains like Majid Muhammad. We had Carlin Muhammad, you know, Roy Muhammad. You know, with men like that before you, you never give thought to leading. You know, you just give thought to following and finding your space in that space. So, you know, when Allah created circumstances that put me as the student minister of that mosque, you know, I just fell in and closed the gap that I felt needed to be filled at that time. And it wasn't until later that, you know, you begin to understand the great significance of that mosque, Mosque #1, when you consider, you know, who the first minister of the mosque was, which of course was Master Fard Muhammad appointed, you know, Elijah Kareem, the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And then you know, you can, in the city of Detroit, we have such a great response to the coming of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And you start to learn that it's so many families that were affected by Master Fard Muhammad when he walked the streets in Detroit, that Islam is all over this city, man. All they need is the right chord to be hit, and they come on out, man. So, it's an honor to be working in the mosque established, the first mosque established in the Nation of Islam. It's an honor. It's a blessing, man. And, when I look back on everything, it's no way I can articulate what happened and how it happened, man. I can just say, praise be to Allah.
Yes, sir. And praise be to Allah. And if you can share with us, with our listening and viewing audience, some of your life before accepting the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, especially starting at the age of 15 and leading up to the age of 17, where you were facing a pretty heavy sentence.
Yes, sir. And it was just that time in Detroit, man. It was a time, I had great parents. I was raised by my grandparents, actually. So I had a bit of a balance in that aspect. We grew up in a time where, crack cocaine was the thing, and it made it easy for young men like myself and other young men in the city of Detroit to get involved in this trade. Not that times were so hard or anything like that we had to, but, I had a cousin who was doing it. He exposed me to it. It was so easy to do that we started doing these things. And, I was always bigger than all of my friends. I always had 2 feet on all of my friends. So, in one sense, as I was coming up, I became a defender of my friends against bullies. And I carried this mentality into the drug trade, where I was supposed to be this tough guy. And it came a point where I was pulled over by law enforcement. And since I had spoken such tough words prior to that, the only thing I could see doing was getting into a shootout with those law enforcement officers. Eventually, I was arrested and prosecuted for attempt murder on a police officer. And I was given 25 to 50 years to do at the age of 17. Prior to that in Detroit, I've been shot 9 times on 2 different occasions. One time, someone trying to rob me for a coat. The other time, I was being robbed or tried to be robbed for finance. Neither time I had such the mentality where I wouldn't give up anything. So Allah, put me in that position. Or I put myself in that position, but praise be to Allah, I learned a lot from it. But I ended up in a prison cell at 17, 18 years old with a 25 to 50 year sentence.
Well, praise be to Allah that you are still here. And this is part of the reason why we named this show, I Have a Testimony, because you surely have a testimony that I know as others watch it now and later on the rebroadcast, they will be inspired. So in prison, you accepted the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Can you explain with us why you accepted the teachings and how you came to accept the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad while in prison?
Yes, sir. Well, in prison, I remember Minister Ava Muhammad one time saying that as Black people, we operate as though we have a pillow over our head. So it's like we're operating for survival. Everything that we're doing is for survival. So it wasn't until I, or even, brothers like me, they get in a position like that they're able to really concentrate on themselves and some of the things that they've been just glancing over all that time, because you're out there hustling, you're out there running, people chasing money. So you never really get a time for real serious reflection. I think that's what the prison cell offered me, serious reflection. So I was able to study the men around me, look at the men around me to see how they carried themselves. And I noticed a group of brothers who, carried themselves real disciplined and clean, which really reflected, how my grandmother made me carry myself as a child. So I looked at the Muslim brothers and I said, well, if I ever joined any of the Muslim groups, them would be the guys I joined right there. And, I didn't get into it immediately. But one day, while in my cell, on the prison rock, that's where all the guys are housed. It comes points of the day where, things happen, or, you know, things get quiet. And if something is quiet, that means something good is on television, you know, usually some video with women in it or something like that. So everybody's glued to their TV. This time it got quiet, but the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was on the Donahue show. And he had the attention of everybody on that unit, which was about 50 guys. And it gave me the chance to see him for the very first time in person. I had heard the name through Public Enemy records. And I had a friend, Brother Lamont, who had joined the Nation of Islam while he was in the Marines. And he had came back and mentioned the name to me, but I never had a face with the name. So when I was able to see him on Donahue, you know, as a guy coming from the street with this tough mentality, you know, where you use brawn and you use guns and you used other things to push and intimidate, I saw a man for the very first time control with just words and a smile. You know what I mean? It wasn't like when your mother, your grandmother control and say, shut up, you know what I mean? You know, or you're going to get this. But he was controlling with intelligence and a smile. And I was just so impressed by that. I said, you know, who is this guy? And then, you know, we watched the show, and even the audience, I saw how the audience changed from a very hostile audience, how, you know, he had an effect that even changed the mindsets of those who were listening to him, who came to fight with him. But by the end of this thing, they were kind of on his side. And to continue, you know, Phil Donahue had a second show. So watching that second show, man, it just blew my mind, because I'd never seen not just a black man, but I'd never seen a man like that. And for him to be black with that power, I said, man, I got to go over to this service to hear some more of this man right here. And that was it, man. That was the day I made the decision, and I haven't looked back since. Praise be to Allah.
Well, we're coming up on our first break, but we have 3 more minutes, and so I will use this time. Did the impact, were other inmates there watching, who were watching the minister on Donahue? Were they also impacted? Were they end up joining, or was just you, for your recollection? Oh
no, it wasn't just me. You know, it was. You know, many joined on that day. You know, many joined on that day. And the thing about prison is that his words allowed us to set a new tone with our life, man. You know, to be 200, 300 miles from home, locked in a cell, man, and trying to find some definition of what your life is going to be. Because you're sitting in there. We were at a prison that they call Gladiator School, where everybody in there was 17 and up, but they had over 20 years to do. So it was like a hopeless environment. But the minister's words and his representation gave men who had no hope. Gave men who had no plan, you know, the idea that they could have a plan. You know, because some of these guys, we write our letters home, getting no response. We call, collect, getting no response. And it's like, okay, what do I do now? I could either fall into this system and become just total gangster and make this my life, or I could strive to be better. And the minister's words, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's words, the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, made a lot of men decide to do better and be better, man.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you for those wonderful responses. We're coming up on our first break, brothers and sisters. So we're going to pause for these brief announcements, and we'll be back with our brother, Student Minister Troy Muhammad.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people, and upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves their families, our people, and the world. Call now, 502-219-4848.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
The hashtag Bank Black social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small, but significant, steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
Our guest today accepted Islam in prison, and doing so sparked a change in his life. Islam, as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is a positive force of change within those institutions. One of our past guests, Brother Larry X, testified of such. And what ways did you see, if you can briefly, that the teachings help to make even the environment safe for those who work there, in addition to the inmates?
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother. I'll be very precise with that, brother. That alone, when we were able to accomplish that, stop the GDs and the vice lords from fighting one another, stop the Crips and the Bloods from banging with one another, getting our Sunni brothers, to have a little more mercy for our Christian brothers, sweating with the Native Americans, brother. That alone, we have done that across federal prisons in this country. And that alone, brother, making it safe for the guards. But the guards don't want to make it safe, brother, because they make money. Some of them, not all of them, because I had guards and we had guards who loved us as well. But they couldn't speak up, just like the bad police that you see today. But they couldn't speak up without being condemned. So that environment, brother, I've seen brothers who couldn't read or write, black man, who were coming to these teachings, brother, and within a year or two, brother, they reading and writing.
So Brother Troy, you accepted the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in prison, and I heard you share on an interview with Brother Munir about how you began to start evolving and elevating in your conscience and your accomplishments. So can you talk about some ways that your life began to change positively behind prison walls after accepting the teachings?
Well, I mean, it's an immediate change because, in prison, you're in a glass house. So everybody can see what you're doing. It's not like you can hide a change or fake a change. You know what I mean? We were extreme, but brother come and he's in the study group and he eats a pork chop, brother, he's out. You know what I mean? If a brother is out of line doing things, smoking cigarettes, all this type of thing, we were putting brothers out, man. And it was extreme at the time as I look back on it. But that was the glass house that we were in. So you had to either line up or not, man. You know what I mean? We had workout 3-4 days a week. You had to be there. It wasn't no missing. It wasn't no plan. We had to do stuff. We had to memorize our packets. And, if any brother asks you a question and you can't answer it, you got to drop down, do push-ups at that time. So it was extreme, but it helped. It was pressure that helped develop each of us and helped us develop one another, pressure each other to be better. I thank Allah for that time period, and I thank Allah for so many who were with me during that time period. And praise be to Allah, some of those brothers have served 20, 30 years and now are out in the mosque with me right now, brother. We just had a iftar the other day, and it was about 40 brothers who were there with me at the iftar who had served time with me in the prior years, man. So praise be to Allah. You can see how he preserved so many who submitted to this teaching, man. And some of those brothers look just as young as they were when they went into prison, and even better than they were when they went into prison, because they were on drugs or using drugs, smoking weed, drinking all the time, and they come out looking new and improved and energetic, man. And praise be to Allah, I have a lot of those brothers working with me at Muhammad's Mosque #1. In fact, when we got our new mosque, it was the formerly incarcerated who came first, man, to paint the building, to help clean the building, who, you know, to do anything they could to contribute to us developing our new building. So, you know, the process in there, you know, you start to change, and you talk to your family members on the phone, and, you know, they might question your change. But in the prison system, one thing that I can really tell you, man, I thank the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because without him and without this teaching, Brother Willie, I wouldn't be out of prison. I was let out of prison. My sentence was reduced. Okay. I went back to court for resentencing. So I had 25 to 50 to do. And it was a young brother in the prison, or an older brother in the prison, who pointed out a flaw in my paperwork. And he said, you can get back to court on this. It wasn't my lawyer. Now, the lawyer asked me, he told me I needed to go into the courtroom and plead guilty, say that I meant to kill this officer. He said, I want you to say that clearly. I couldn't say that because that wasn't my intention. My only intention was to get away that day, you know, but the lawyer tried to force me to say what he wanted me to say. I didn't.
Praise be to Allah.
So the lawyer wasn't working to get me out, but this inmate pointed out a flaw, and he said, take this to your lawyer and make him file it, you know. Man. And beautiful. I did that, and I got back to court on that, which the inmate pointed out. And what it was that the judge who sentenced me, he said, I'm giving you 25 to 50 years because you shot an officer of the law. And in shooting an officer, you're not just shooting an individual, but you're shooting all of civilized society. Wow. He shouldn't have said that, because he acted like an officer was any different from, you know, the average person. So that's what got me back. So when I go in front of a new judge, the new judge could say, okay, I'm going to re-sentence you just to deter others from committing a similar crime. Wow. But she looked at my record and she said, you are an exemplary inmate. Your record is perfect. She said, you are the perfect example of reform. She said, so if I could give you less time, I would. But I'm going to give you what the guidelines suggest, which was 5 to 10. So she reduced my sentence from 25 to 50 to 5 to 10. And I end up doing 12 altogether, the 10 maximum plus 2 for the gun. But I wouldn't have had an exemplary, that clean record without the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the guidance from the study guide from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because they demanded that we change and that we do better and that we be respectful of the laws of the institution and just be respectful to ourselves. So I didn't get in trouble. I went in there and I got my GED. I got 2 years of college, an associate's degree. I got certified in welding and other programs like that. So my record was looking great, but it's based upon the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So if I didn't have those teachings, I would have done 25 or maybe over 25 years. But because of the teachings, because they demanded me to change, it created a record of change. And that record of change had me released at an earlier date.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. And brother Troy, with your experience, what advice would you give to those brothers or sisters who've accepted Islam in prison and who are in a transition of being released or have been released? What advice would you give them about their transition from the prison onto the streets into the mosque?
Well, I mean, it's different for every person, right? Because we're all different human beings and our roles are different. However, I think many of us came home thinking that the mosque was a perfect place, right? Because in most cases, all we get to hear is the messages of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So it's like you're listening to a perfect man, you know, you're listening to a perfect word. So when you come home, you expect that. But that's the wrong expectation, because we're all getting cleansed at this point. You know what I mean? We're in the mosque because we're getting cleaned up. We're in the mosque because we got problems. We're in the mosque because we need help. But sometimes we come out of prison, you know, just feeding directly from the minister. So it's like, man, I'm this, I'm that, you know, and we get an arrogant positioning too. Or we say, you know, I've heard it said amongst brothers, you know, if a guy ain't been in prison, he can't tell me what to do. But you've been listening to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan all this time, and he hasn't been in prison. It's just that he has the word of God in such a way that it unlocks all prison bars from all of us. It don't matter if you're in a physical prison, a prison of debt, a prison of slavery, a prison of self-hatred. He unlocks that with his words. So, you know, I think, you know, of course, to be patient with the process, to be understanding with the process, to apply those study guides that you've been studying all this time to every situation in your life, because it works, it works, it works. And when I go back into prisons to talk to the brothers, the first thing I tell them is, brother, I've seen the promised land, you know, and I tell you this, if I don't tell you anything else, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is exactly who we teach him to be, man. You know, if it's no hoax, it's no joke, it's nothing dressed up, it's the real deal, man. We're dealing and listening to the man of God.
Yes, sir. And so we're 3 minutes away from our next break, and I want to get this question. And you've given advice to those who are transitioning out of prison. What advice would you give to those in the mosque regarding welcoming our brothers and sisters who are transitioning into the mosque after serving time and being incarcerated?
Again, everybody is different. So that, you know, that advice, you know, I think the main thing is just, you know, if we believe in Allah, if we believe in his Christ, if we see how patient Allah is and understand his patience with us, the God who's given us everything but has asked for nothing in return, except for our submission. But he doesn't even cut us off if we don't submit, because the unrighteous get rain and sun and, you know, and they have life. So he doesn't even cut us off at that point. We have to understand grace, right? Because grace is something that we've all been given with. Just when we began to breathe life, we got grace. And we haven't earned it. In fact, we've done so many things to say we don't deserve it, but Allah is still the most gracious and most merciful when it comes to us. So we should try to demonstrate grace and mercy and patience with anybody, not just brothers coming from prison, but anybody who decides to come to the mosque, you know, and accept this teaching. You know what I mean? Because it's a process. We weren't, you know, brought up on this. We're just learning it. And it's like, man, I want to learn. I want to try. So let's be patient with them, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has demonstrated a great patience with all of us.
Beautiful, brother. Brother Troy, you have a very infectious spirit, man. And I can sense it. And I can see why you are such an attracting power with those that you come in contact with. So we're going to pause for our next brief announcements, and we'll be back with more of this interview with our beautiful brother, Brother Troy Muhammad.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
The great significance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is something that cannot be denied. Last week, our national student imam, Brother Sultan Muhammad, shared with us the minister's significance to the Islamic world.
Oh, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is a demonstration of Muhammad in modern times. So for the Islamic world to see a bold representation of freedom, justice, and equality in one of our own who has grown up here under the foot of oppression of our open enemies in this government that has generation after generation destroyed our people and are continuing to do so. He speaks truth to power. It is Muhammad, peace be upon him, that said, the greatest jihad is to speak truth to a tyrant. So in the belly of the beast, we see the representation of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan standing up to the ills and the wicked domestic policies.
And we're back with our Brother Troy Muhammad, and we'll get right to it. Brother Troy, you've had the opportunity to be with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on many occasions and receive guidance from him on many topics and circumstances. Can you take a moment for us and reflect on some of those interactions, if you can, and share with us one or two of the most profound pieces of guidance that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has shared with you during some of those interactions?
Man, after that last question, we were talking about grace and the last Savior's Day that we had here in Detroit, the unraveling of a nation, which was, I mean, man, that's major to consider everything that happened after he closed that lecture. But the night before, I believe it was, I was blessed to be at dinner with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and he was discussing with those who were present the title of that lecture, The Unraveling of a Great Nation. And he mentioned that he was considering a different title. And the title that he mentioned to me was from the words of Jesus when he was on the cross. He said these were the most significant words that Jesus uttered. And it was, forgive them, for they know not what they do. When I consider grace and I consider mercy, and as you mentioned, those who are incarcerated and those who are coming to the mosque and those in the community, you have to get to the point where you say, forgive them, for they know not what they do. When you see all of the things that are going on in our world, man, amongst our people in particular, and then you consider that we've been raised by our enemy, man, And that didn't just stop when slavery stopped, but when you look at the TV, you listen to the radio, you see all the things that are going on, we're still feeding off of his mind, man. So we can't just walk past them and condemn them for what they're doing. That's why he said these are the most significant words. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. But we walk and we judge and we judge and we judge and we turn away or we mock or we ridicule, not considering that those of us who know or think we know, it was a time that we knew not as well, man. So it's a healing process that has to take place. And, you know, that was profound to me because it was coming from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, man. You know, a man who, you know, he's done so much for so many of us. And he's asked, you know, just get right, you know, just be better. And he's saying, you know, and then we go and we do all types of stuff, man. And he says, forgive them, for they know not what they do, man. It's just that type of man that we're dealing with. And his words, he doesn't have to say anything too different. But I remember, I think you were present when we were at dinner at the Palace in Chicago. And he said that faith is the key. Now that sounds pretty general, and you've heard it before, but coming from him, it has a different ring and a totally different spin on it, because this is a man who called 1 million men to Washington, D.C. on a Monday, and over or 2 million showed up. This is a man who, you know, everybody doubted it when he said it. No, they couldn't do that. The march Dr. King only had 250,000, but this man called for 1 million, and over 2 million showed up. So when he talks about faith, it hits different. You understand what I'm saying? Because he's demonstrated faith and produced faith and showed us right before our eyes. That's why the final call, the following issue said, a glimpse of heaven. Because he showed it to us, Brother Willie. He showed us what it looked like. So if you were on the mall, over 1 million men, you can bear witness, and many have bared witness to me. It was no fighting. It was no weed smoke in the air. It was no a shooting or anything like that. The stuff that we see on a daily basis in our cities, on that mall, 2 million black men, none of that took place. So then I have to consider, as the student minister in the city of Detroit, it's only 700,000 people here. So if he could produce peace for one day with 2 million, then we, with that same word, should be able to produce peace amongst the 700,000. And that should be able to be recreated and reduplicated in the cities around the country and in the world.
Yes, sir. You know, Brother Troy, I think you shared this publicly, and I believe it was at Mas Mariam. You talked about the impact of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on your mother and words that she shared, if I'm not mistaken. Can you share with those who may be listening, who are listening right now, who haven't heard that, about that testimony? Can you talk about that?
Oh, yes, indeed, man. You know, since then, you know, every time I'm blessed to talk with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the first question he asks is, how is your mother? You know, and now when I call her, the first question she asks is, how is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? So it's been a great thing for me. But, you know, one of the Savior's days came, and my father passed away. And, you know, the minister, being the great minister that he is, he asked, could he come to the funeral?
Wow.
And, you know, but it was far from where the hotel was. So I kept saying to him, it's too far, brother minister. You know, I didn't want to, you know, burden him at that time. You know, I just didn't want to burden him. So I kept trying to discourage that. And he ended up sending Minister Ishmael. But he said, since you won't let me come to the funeral, he said, I want you to bring the funeral to me. So he allowed me to bring my whole family and everybody who attended the funeral to the hotel room so he can see them and talk to him. But one of the things that he asked me how things were going in Detroit, and I told him I felt good about it. I feel good about, our acceptance rates and my ability to speak to people and help people through their issues. I said, but I have one problem. I can help a lot of people, and a lot of people are saying I'm helping them, but my mother, she's been drug addicted for years, and I just can't seem to get through to her. And then he looked at me and he smiled and he said, leave mom to me, And so I brought her there that day after the funeral, because I felt with my father dying that it would really make her have a turn for the worse. So it was a blessing to be able to bring her there that day. And as he was greeting my family, I saw him take her, and they walked off to the side a bit, not far, but I saw him saying words to her, specific words to her that I couldn't hear, but I saw that she was very engaged in what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was saying. And, everybody left at a certain point. And then the next day on Facebook, I saw my mom, she used to make these good morning Facebook friends posts and stuff like that, which was always funny to us. But she made a post that said, I feel like I met Jesus. And this was before, we were saying it like that, right? And after that meeting, my mother hasn't had the drug problem that she had for 20, 30 years prior to that. So I'm proud of that. And it was just that meeting with him that affected her in a way. And, she's still engaged with his spirit. And again, he always asks about mom when he talks to her. So, it's been a blessing to me to see. In fact, I have a Facebook picture of me and her up today with her holding Message of the Black Man. So, it's just a beautiful thing when that word can come in and affect the family.
Especially your mom, man. And we have 2 more minutes before this next break, but I want to ask you this. Were you able to relate that change in your mother back to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in her words? And if so, what did he say quickly in these 2 minutes?
Well, I gave the testimony of Savior's Day. So he knew it, and again, like I said, every time that I'm blessed to talk to him or be in his presence, he asks about mom to see how she's doing and everything like that. So, I'm sure he knows the power and the significance of his word, man, because the words of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad helped change him. So he knows the word is real. And if it's given to the right heart at the right time, the transformation can take place. So, I always give him the report that mom is doing well. And, he smiles, that beautiful smile that he has, man. So I'm happy, man. I'm so happy. And again, honored to be on the show with you, called I Have a Testimony.
And as you can see, I don't know if you can see the comments, but people are thoroughly enjoying this interview, and I'm enjoying it in your spirit. We're approaching our last break, and we'll be back with our brother Troy Muhammad.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.
Greetings from National Network View. This week's Final Call cover story headline memorializes the late, great DMX. Last week, DMX's life was celebrated at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Large crowds gathered to honor the legend. They were there to remember a man who wasn't afraid to express his pain with the world. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke via Zoom to the large audience. He delivered words of comfort, wisdom, and guidance to everyone under the sound of his voice. DMX will live on. This FCM volume number 29 edition features the middle page article is a transcript of what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said at the memorial. To read more, subscribe to finalcalldigital.com, and tune in to the all-new Final Call Radio. This is the NNVnews.com Final Call Cover Report.
He anointed our head with oil till our cup runneth over. He who, Master Farrakhan, Muhammad, that is he.
The city of Detroit has been the host of our annual Savior's Day convention often. The community and city officials often welcome us with open arms.
Members of the Nation of Islam gathered downtown today to see Minister Louis Farrakhan up close. The group's leader entered the Joe Louis Arena this afternoon to a massive crowd of cheering supporters. In Detroit, the Nation of Islam annual convention is Farrakhan's keynote remarks, and he wrapped up a weekend of workshops from religious and political leaders all around the country. The movement was founded in Detroit, but is now based in Chicago.
So we're back, brothers and sisters, and we're hoping our brother look like his camera. There he is, he's back. So thank you, my brother, for sharing that powerful testimony and everything that you've been sharing, and people are loving it, and I'm loving it as well. My next question I want to ask you, this show is titled, I Have a Testimony, and it's geared to have our guests to give testimonies about their own lives as you are doing, and to give testimony about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to free him in the minds of people who have been negatively impacted by this false propaganda that has been thrown out about him. So with that, if you had the opportunity, my brother, to stand before the world and share with them 3 qualities of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, or things, observation of how you've seen him interact and handle people, what would be those 3 qualities or those examples of you seeing that testify of who he is?
Oh man, I mean, sometimes when we're at dinner when we're blessed to have dinner with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I can just look, I can't do anything but look at him, because he's such a beautiful human being. Serve him, man. And you see how he treats everybody in the room as though he's their servant. It's not just the people who are considered high and mighty or with positions, but he treats everybody, man, as though he's a servant, and he treats them with love. His qualities are endless. I mean, I don't know if I could pick out 1 or 2. But I think the best thing, when you talk about testimony, testimony when you're in a court of law,
go ahead,
can free a person or it can incarcerate a person, and so testimony in this show is very important, man, for us to say what we need to say about a man who has freed us. And I think the best way that we can testify is not just in our words, but it's what we do, man. Because I shouldn't have to defend the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I should be able to just get in front of you and say, I was blind, but now I see. I was deaf, but now I hear. I was dumb, but now I speak. I look at my history, man. When I went to prison, the prosecutor's name was Mike Duggan. Okay, he was the head prosecutor. He's now the mayor of the city of Detroit. Wow. So the man who prosecuted me now calls me for guidance and help and advice on a regular basis. The sheriff was a man named, I think, Warren Evans, and you had Benny Napoleon. All these people were involved in leadership at that time, but now they work with me and ask for my help in situations, man. So I can show in my history the value of his words and how his words have helped and lifted and guided and shaped, man. It's just a beautiful thing to be in the presence. And one thing about incarceration, I think the most beautiful thing about the teachings is that when you tell people that you were incarcerated, they don't even believe it, man. They don't even believe it because of the transformation that takes place because of these teachings when applied. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the greatest human being I've ever met, man. I've ever cast my eyes on. And I'm, you know, my grandmother is right behind him. And she was the best person who has ever come into my life. And I never would have thought anybody would come in, man, who would compare to that. But this man has given so much, man. Given. You know, we have a new mosque in Detroit. But he wanted to buy it himself. You know, that's the type of man that he is. And I went, you know, around because I wanted to show him that we could do something for ourselves, man. But it was his desire to buy the mosque. You know, he has offered his support and help for the mosque. He's not a man who asks, but he's a man who gives and gives and gives, man. So praise be to Allah, man. I'm so thankful to have come in his presence because it's changed the entire course of my life, man. I'm everywhere today. Every door is open in the city of Detroit for your brother, but it's because I lead with the name of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But once you get in those doors, you have to demonstrate the teachings that he's given us and the guidance that he's given us, man. So Detroit has been good to me because of the guidance and teachings of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And, you know, we've even expanded outside of Detroit, but it's all based upon these teachings, man, and trying to apply what he's given us, man.
Yes, sir. And Brother Troy, how did you become appointed as the student minister of Muhammad Mosque #1?
Man, I don't know. I have no idea. I was just, when I was in prison, brother, this is a story that we just came across. We were sent to what's called a maximum security facility because we got into an assaultive situation. I didn't do it. It was another brother. So they locked up our whole group of believers, which was about 80 brothers, and they sent us all to maximum facility prisons. So I get to the maximum facility that I was going to. And when you get there, they tell you, okay, you got to go in that cell, go get you a mattress and sheets, and then they throw you in the cell. Once you get in that cell, you're going to be in there in the maximum security for 23 and a half hours a day. So I was in a cell for 23 and a half hours a day for 2 years. The only time they would take us out the cell is they would take us out on like a dog chain and put us in another cage outside so we can get some air. Then they take us back in the room 23 hours a day. The mattress that I picked up that day, it was a used mattress. They hadn't changed the sheets on it or anything. I didn't know that until I got it in the room. But when I opened it up, it was a Maulana Muhammad Ali translation of the Holy Quran in that mattress. It was in that mattress, brother. And that would be the book that would be in that room for me 23 hours and a half each day for the next 2 years, man.
Wow.
And I'm saying that to say, I don't know how I became the student minister of Mosque #1, but I can look back on my past and see how things happened to develop me to be ready for that. You know, I was just trying to be a good assistant to Minister Rasul at the time. I was trying to help in prison ministry with Minister Victor at the time. I had no idea or no desire at that point to be the minister of the mosque because you had a great minister in Minister Rasul, and you had a list of student ministers that was serving as his assistants. I didn't think I was there on their level with them. I didn't think like that. But when it was time for Minister Rasul to leave, he said to me that, you know, he said the minister told him he had the type of heart that if he made mistakes, that he knew that he would be doing it with a good intention based upon his heart. And Minister Rasul told me, well, your heart is 3 times my heart. So I know if you were in position, you wouldn't misuse the believers. Not necessarily that you had all the wisdom and all this type of stuff, but you have the type of heart where you wouldn't misuse and abuse the believers. So I think that is how I got there. And then we have to, as you know, as a student minister, you got to continue to work hard and do the things you need to do to stay there, man. You know, we've been in Detroit. We've been leading with the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We have a great staff here, man, and we're trying to make things happen and do this work to help resurrect our people, while at the same time being conscious that self-improvement is the basis for community development, man. We can never stop that path, because if you stop on that, the testimony is no good.
Sir. And then we close out on this last question. What would you say is one of the most valuable lessons you have learned while serving in the post of a student minister, a Muhammad Mosque #1?
Well, it would have to go back to forgive them, for they know not what they do. You know, it's that we're all in a process, man. And just because I'm the minister of the mosque, you know, people look at the minister of the mosque as, okay, that's the apex of it, you know, and he knows everything. He knows what to do, where to go, but we're all in a learning process, man. And we have to keep that in mind, that we're all in a learning process. We're all in this thing together. We're all trying to get better together. The mosque is our hospital. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, they're our doctors. And we're taking a prescription to get better, man. So I can't judge you because I can't see inside you. I don't know or understand what motivates you. I don't know what experiences have placed you in the position that you're in. I don't know what happened to you to make you make the decisions that you're making. So for me to stand over you as a judge, I just think that's so unfair, man. And to look at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and see that he doesn't do that to us. You know, I think that's been a valuable thing. So, you know, to give each man and each woman, because we're all created in the image and likeness of God. And I remember the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan telling me, he said when Master Fard Muhammad came to Detroit, it was a small area that they called Black Bottom. He said now the entire city is Black Bottom. So in order to lift the city, each believer has to become Master Fard Muhammad, man. In that, just saying that, he hooked us up with God. He showed us or told us our potential to manifest God in us, man. Now, it doesn't just apply to Detroit. I'm sure it's the whole world now is a Black Bottom.
That's a fact.
So each of us as believers have the duty now to allow Allah to show himself through us, man.
Yes, sir.
So I thank you, Brother Willie, for this show. I thank you for your time. I thank you for when you came to Detroit and spoke to the believers here, man. It was a beautiful weekend. I had you on my show too, so I'm happy to be on your show this time. And I pray that, you know, after this virus stuff is over, we'll see each other again and you come back down to the city of Detroit.
And I enjoy you because you were one of the people that when we were doing this, I have a testimony before, you know, we weren't doing it online, and you spoke after you did the Sunday lecture. You participated in the I Have a Testimony, and you shared. So it's a beautiful thing to have you back on. And today, my brother, you gave a wonderful testimony. Go back and look at the comments. Thank you, my brother. And we're going to close out. May Allah continue to bless you, give your family, and give all of the believers the greetings. All right. So our brother has left, and what we're going to do, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the heart button. And the reason why is because that helps to increase the likelihood of people seeing this come across their YouTube or their Facebook channel. We thank you all for tuning in. We're going to close out at our brief announcements. Listen, as I always tell you, we here in the city of New Orleans in the process of trying to burn our mortgage. Please make sure you give a donation. You can go to Cash App. You can go to PayPal. You can reach out to us on social media. We can tell you the address where you can mail a copy. You can mail whatever you want to give. And also we can send you the flyer that you can post. And we will greatly appreciate that. In addition to that, brothers and sisters, I don't know if you have the flyer. We'll continue to have our prayer group. If it didn't come up, well, we'll make sure that we have it on next Sunday. But make sure here it is. If in this day and time, if you need somebody to pray for you and your family, please make sure you send their names and we'll add it to our prayer list. Thank you all for tuning in to NNV News Network. Make sure you tune in Mondays through Fridays at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time to see our daily news network. This is a news network. Make sure you hit the subscribe button right now. If you haven't subscribed, right now, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you share and like. Every time you come across something with NNV, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you share it or you tag others. Thank you. And may Allah continue to bless each and every one of you. This is your brother, Brother Willie Muhammad, signing off.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us. He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.